Hello everybody, welcome to Live Scribbles with Jonathan. You can check out my website and my work at jonathanrector.com. And this show is every Wednesday from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you can't make it, by all means, you guys can always participate in the chat while you're here. And if you can't, I should say, you can always leave a comment and let me know what you thought of the video and all that good stuff. I wanted to address two things right off the top, and then we're going to get into what we're going to be doing today, which is I'm actually really excited for it, and I'll tell you why in a second. But the first one is new content, new videos coming out on the channel. I've been, if you guys know me, and I ramble about this all the time, especially if you're watching these really long streams, thank you. And I totally understand why most people wouldn't watch an hour video of just stuff, right? But I'm really into trying to learn new ways of productivity, workflow, and all that stuff. And it could be argued that the more you look for ways to be productive, you're actually not doing anything. So I like to listen to like a lot of audiobooks and stuff to sort of like counteract that. And I've just come across a few books that I think I'm going to really share with you guys. I'm thinking of making a Snapchat video of it within the next couple of days, just showing some books that have really changed perspective and goal setting and future planning and all these sorts of things. There was a video a few weeks back where an artist talked about the 5-year plan. Where do you see what you're doing right now in 5 years? Who are you in 5 years? And what's your work doing in 5 years? What's it doing for you? What's it, all that stuff, right? And just thinking about what I'm doing and stuff. YouTube first started off for me as a way to I'll just noodle. I'll just noodle draw while I'm talking here, so it's not just white. But YouTube first started for me as a way to be productive and stay motivated. It was a way for me to get to the desk in the morning. And besides grab coffee, first thing I would do is do my best to create some sort of video. And it wasn't like, and you guys can tell, I'm sure, a lot of these videos are just stream of consciousness. There's not much planning, if any planning at all, that goes into them. In the beginning, there was definitely some specific goals, like anatomy, because I saw people asking about that sort of stuff. And I thought I could chime in with a different perspective on it. And the more, YouTube went on, and the more it keeps going on and all that stuff, new things pop up, new challenges, new awesome things, what's the word I'm looking for, opportunities to come up and new things and all that stuff. So all that's to say is I had to make a conscious decision over the last, I'd say a week or so. It's been going on for a while, of just priorities and where things are going and, what am I doing and what are we all doing and all that stuff, right? And YouTube has changed more into, for me anyway, more of like a teaching sort of thing. I find mostly, like, I thoroughly enjoy doing these streams with you guys every week. And and throughout the week when I do the casual ones, when I'm just hanging out and you guys, come in and join me and stuff, which is awesome. But a lot of the content just is more, teaching and stuff. And what I like is just this sort of stuff where it's this streaming stuff is way more laid back. I don't have to edit. I don't have to. There's zero product or production values that go into it. There's tons of artists on YouTube of varying degrees of, if you want to call it quality or the subject matter they talk about, that YouTube is like a business for them. And there was a moment where I thought YouTube could be for me as well. But then I just, the more I look around, it's teaching is fun. I enjoy it, but I don't want to be a teacher. I feel like I still have stories to tell and short stories to share, and the more your attention gets divvied up, the less that can happen. So I'm not saying I'm done with all this stuff. That's not at all. All that's a long-winded way of saying that I don't really see too many tutorial-based videos coming out anytime soon. It's mostly just going to be this sort of content here. So there's going to be people that will be bummed out about that, and there's going to be some people that really don't care, and all that stuff, and that's fine. But I'm hoping, anyway, that this is going to just free up some more time to get better at art and put the time back into stories and more comic book stuff, right? Going again into what do you see? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Or if you're looking at what you're doing today, what is it you don't like about what you're doing today? Is it you just wish you had more time to draw? Is it you wish you had the energy, the fill in the blank? all the stuff that we always come through. And at the end of the day, you got to kind of look at what you do. Do you play video games a lot? Do you read too many books? Do you work out too much? Do you draw too much? You know, all these things. And if something's out of whack, you got to fix it. You gotta do your best to at least attempt to sort of just step back a little bit and see what it is you can do. In my belief, anyway, to fix it. And some tremendous books I've been reading. Yes, somebody did say 4 Hour Work Week. That is, oh my gosh, a wonderful book. There are some excellent things in there, but lately there's been 2 books. I'll just write them down right now for you. It's the 80/20 Principle book. That one I just found out about the last couple of days, but in a whole bunch of productivity books that I read, especially the 4 Hour Work Week, this is talked about as well. 80/20 Principle, I believe it's called. So far, what I've read is it's been amazing. General idea is, if you think about it like this way, 20% of the work you do yields 80% of the actual quantity of it. So I'm trying to think of a good way, like a good example. Like they give examples in the book of like 20% of the criminals in the world make up 80% of all crime. Okay, 20% of a certain vegetable that you plant yields 80% of your crops. So you could lay down, 100 seeds, but only 20 of those seeds are going to actually be the ones that, let's say, live, the other ones die, but those 20% are the ones that grow into something. So how would you do this in like art related stuff? That's what I'm kind of getting into the book now. But it's pretty much the right stuff. Like, what's the most important 20% that you have right now that you do that makes up for most of what you do? And that's where, if you start splitting your time, right, like YouTube videos, teaching, hanging, or not hanging, but like maybe like drinking draws, we'll say, I'll throw that in there. Comic book work. Maybe you like to do animations as well. You're just sort of all over the place and you're just finding who you are. That's cool. But once you start to sit back and you look and you're like, what is it that you really want to do? It's anyway, the assumption of this book and this principle here that is what you sort of move towards, is that sort of thing. And I don't want to labor you guys with this kind of thing. This has just been I've fallen in love with this whole productivity BS stuff that's around. There's that one, and then the last book that I was just reading. What was the name of that one? Oh my gosh, it's on the tip of my tongue. Oh, it's called Going Pro. And I believe it's part 2, sort of in a series of another book that's called, and this is just a plain word, The War of Art, instead of The Art of War, The War of Art. And The War of Art has been, holy hell, that's even been a great book. If the idea of fear stifles you from creating or starting things, check that book out. Highly recommended. Highly recommended. Tremendous book. The guy does like a lot of real talk when he's reading that as well. The other one, again, Going Pro, is just he literally, you can see, I believe there's like a sample you can get on Amazon or something, and within the first couple pages he tells you exactly what the difference is between going pro and being an amateur, right? An amateur is somebody who loves to do something, but a pro will do that even if he doesn't love it. Okay, so the idea, right, is as soon as you're a professional, your opinion about everything changes about that. So let's say comic books. If today, literally today, you say, you know what, I'm done being I want to be a professional comic book artist. If you were to say that today, what does that mean? What does a professional comic book artist mean? Right? Does it mean watching some TV? Does it mean hanging out with friends? Does it mean just sitting around going, oh, I wish I could. I wish I was better at this. No, if you're a professional, you just do it. You just learn it. It's like an immediate attitude change. And that's what was really refreshing about that book. Again, highly recommend all this stuff. And again, I'll just throw it in here too. This is the book right here that changed pretty much my whole perspective on anything in life going forward, which is called The Dip. I think that's like 100 pages. At that, you could, even if you're the slowest reader and you've never read a book and it takes you 10 minutes a page, it's 100 pages. You could finish it in a day, no problem. And I always recommend checking out your local library. I can guarantee you they got these books here. Okay? So I just wanted to put that out there for you guys out there for some food for thought. I know they're not anatomy books and drawing books, but I do believe that there's room for this sort of stuff because it's been helping me. So I know it's got to help some of you guys and girls out there as well. So what we're doing today, let's close all that up. We're doing this gross art. What's going on here? So this here, I was doing a couple casual streams. I believe we did this last stream as well, and I'll show you what we're going to do with this. This is for, I don't know the name of the project, but it's, if you guys remember the Worlds in Peril RPG stuff I was doing, it was like a big, if you think Dungeons and Dragons, but superheroes, I was fortunate enough to be asked to do all the artwork inside of a player's handbook. Phenomenal. That is one of the greatest achievements I actually have next to comic book stuff that I've done, because I'm a huge Dungeons and Dragons fan. I was only able to play a little bit of it growing up, but I poured over those monster manuals and all the stuff like that. It was holy hell amazing. What a wonderful treat that project was. And the client that did that, Kyle Simmons, he's asked me to do these, and these are like poker size cards, sort of like playing cards, where you play actions and stuff. So you can see right up at the top here, he's just labeled out like a really gross, like name of move. It looks like he drew it in MS Paint, but it's just an idea of where these placements are, so I know where the figures are going. So what we're going to be doing today is I was going to clean up the line art here to get ready for inks during the pre-show, but I wanted to save it up just to show you guys this, and we're going to ink this, and the inking that I've been doing actually doesn't take very long. I've been very pleasantly surprised with this pen that I made and all that stuff as well. And before that, I'm just going to show some examples of what do we do here? We'll look at 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll look at, what the hell, we'll just do number 5 here, just so you can kind of see where we're going. So this is the line art here. You can see this is literally where we're at right now. All I'm going to do is clean it up and put this contour line around it. Yep, and then the next stage here is the inking, and let me open up the ink so you guys can kind of see that. Was that number 5? Just so you can kind of see I don't say the difference, but it's a much grittier look than, I don't say that I normally do, but that I have done in a very long time. It's very refreshing. So if you look, here's the line art, and I'm just gonna turn it on and off a few times. It's almost sloppy. I actually enjoy the hell out of it. It reminds me, again, of some of the older work I used to do, but maybe more intentional. Like the grit is there, the dots are there. There's like some meat to it. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it's pretty sweet. I'm getting turned on by this kind of stuff. This gets me going like, I want to draw more things like this, right? So I'm just going to move this off to the side so I can see it. So I sort of have it as like a style guide over off on the other side of my monitor here. So this is what we're going to do when we're inking the next one. And we're going to go right to the process of it. It's actually very simple. And then I'm going to get back into some Jessup King, which I have not been able to draw, oh my gosh, in so long, because of my fault and nothing else, just taking on some client work. I don't know if I talked to you guys again privately in that one about that as well. But yeah, I haven't been able to do really any Jessup King work because of this project here, and I took on a cover for another client as well. And I just came up with this realization that, as awesome as these projects are, and they're always a treat to do these sorts of things. If you guys remember when I was talking about Jessup King, and I'm not trying to build Jessup King into being like this, oh, it's going to be the greatest thing you guys ever read. It's not really meant to be that. It's more for me. That's all it really is. And I hope, obviously, people enjoy it. But it's more for, you know what, let's take some time for myself and just treat myself. Make me my own client. And just see what we can do for like, a year or so. And see what happens. Just the hell, why not? You live once, right? Let's put some money and some time and some gamble into ourselves here. So I'm just combining all the layers here, the line art that we have, because these guys are on the same plane. I'm not going to have to move them. But what I have to do here is I'm going in with this deadline again, and you see all these little like open gaps. I'm going to go in there and I'm just going to close them because we're going to run an action that fixes all of this here as well. And I'm going to say hello to everybody as well. Yeah, hello. There's a lot of rambling going on at the beginning there. And how are you guys doing? How you guys been? Yes, Pillow is the one that modeled Jessup's ship for me, and the ship's name is the Sagan One. A little play on there for Carl Sagan. For anybody, I hope people are familiar with him. If you're not, I'm not sure if it's true or not, but it seems like it. But if you guys like The Matrix, Agent Smith, the way he talks to me sounds just like Carl Sagan's voice. It's almost robotic, and it's got like this pronunciation to it it's very unique. but it reminds me of that. But I would recommend listening to him if you guys have just been watching Cosmos, the new one with Neil deGrasse Tyson. Carl Sagan did it first, and the new Cosmos with Neil, that one's updated. You know, all the new information that they found out and stuff like that. But both wonderful shows, absolutely. If that stuff interests you at all. Yes, there are actions. I believe they're called. If you go up to here to go window, work, no, window, auto action, they're called. So I guess this would be a great time. Going back to, I guess, sort of counter to what I just said about not making YouTube content, I'm going to be making, and this sort of ties in with it, and it doesn't. It's a project that I've been wanting to do for a while now, but I just kept putting it off, you know, doing more client work and all that, you know, all that jazz. I'm going to be making a tutorial, but this one I'm going to charge money for as an experiment to see what the hell. I figure it'll be a different way to get some content out there and all that, and it's the making a mini comic video. So the reason why I wanted to do that video is because it's going to address a whole bunch of things that I would end up doing a lot of videos on. So it's going to go through, I believe it'll just be a simple 7-page mini comic with a cover, and we'll go through the entire process of the story, the script, at least how I do it, how I so how does the drawing work? Go right through, and it's probably going to be a pretty beefy project just because of the amount of recording, but I have some confidence that we'll be able to get through it, and then it won't be too much of a jumbled mess. And I'll go right through like ideas for like thumbnails, what we're going to do, and it'll be sped up, I'm sure, showing like the line art stages working in bulk and the workflow and all that stuff. And with it, I plan on it combining the tools that I use. So like what you guys see now, and then when we get to inking, excuse me, all the inking brushes that I do use, and as well as bundling it in with the actions that I use to make those comics. So it'll sort of just be like a whole comic bundle, I suppose, of just how I make books. And why I'm interested in doing that is because I feel like that can do a lot more. Maybe not, but be more helpful for those people that are actually looking for like I guess my workflow of doing comic book pages, or just make comics in general, or people that are interested in. I guess it's just my take on doing it, because I know I've been buying actually quite a bit of tutorials from people on like Gumroad, where they've been just, oh my gosh, absolutely changing a lot of my workflow, and just like it's awesome. That's all it is. And I'm not going to spend too much time now because there's nothing there. I just wanted to plant that seed for those of you interested in that anyway, because I do get messages all the time. Thank you for those. People asking about like that. When is that mini comic coming out, man? When is that how-to mini comic thing coming out? But I do have something on my channel if you guys wanted to go back, and you can check that out as well. That's it's old, but I show you how I end up making a story. I guess it's a really lame story. Oh my gosh. But a mini comic for those interested in that. Okay, so let's get back to the drawing here. So I've got all our line art, and the reason why I touched up the lines is because now what I'm doing is I'm grabbing my wand tool here, my from current layer, because there's only one layer, but I could put all layers, doesn't really matter. So when I select it, it's not going to go inside. What we want is to select everything except the inside of these characters. Okay. So you can see it's going all the way around. I'm just doing a double check to make sure, looking like there's no lines in between. It's a pretty simple pose. There's nothing crazy going on. Now I'm going to run my action, which I have hotkeyed to F keys. I've showed you guys this before. But if you look over here, this is a whole bunch of the ones that I use. One we're going to be using is Knockout and Contour. Again, anybody that's got the DC guide for digital comics, you guys know where we're going to go with this. So I'm going to hit that, and you can see right away like how much time that saves. Just having this fat line around there. It's too big for this project, so I'm just going to bring it down here with one of the effect layer properties. But it's still there, right? It's all I need to get us to inks. And theoretically, this stage is done, right? So I'm going to save this. This is my lines, my lines version of the piece. And I'll show you why. Again, I work in the Freddy method, I call it. I'll continue to call it that. All these stages here are good to go, like the production workflow. I mirror a lot of what he does because a lot of it rang true. So we got the lines, so now we're doing inks. So I'm going to go into inks, and we're going to save it in there. This way, if something were to happen to this file, I can always go back, or if I needed to open one, very often I don't ever have to go back, but I have had some semi-tragic stuff happen that I hope everybody that does computer work goes through something brutal, just so that you'll be more cautious of it. It is a reality; it will happen, but it'll definitely be there. Sorry. Fight Freak John, have you ever dealt with a particular artist block? If you knew you want to draw someone versus someone, such as Deadpool versus Daredevil, but then you get blocked on the poses, how do you deal with it? Sure, yeah, I can answer that for you. 1 second. I just want to get the inking started, and then I'll address that question for you, buddy. Thank you. Yeah, reread the DC guide. I think I've gone through that thing like 4 or 5 times. I recommend putting it in your bathroom and just flipping through it from time to time. Just leave it in there. Flip through it from time to time. Because you never know when you might look at something and go like, oh, it clicks. Right? So now that we have our inks, this is our inks file. I don't need a lot of information that's here. I don't need this description box. Let's just axe that. We don't need that. We're going to need our lines, but I don't need any of this rough stuff. So I'm just going to select it and delete it. It's gone. I'm going to actually combine these layers now because I'm never going to edit them, because this is like the final piece here that I'm going to ink. And here I can make a new layer, or I usually make it in folders. Inks. That way it's all clean. When I'm done, I can just close it and it's good to go, right? And I believe I've been using, is it the small one? Let me just check here. Yeah, it is. Okay. And the method I'm doing with this, I just want to show this because so you guys, hopefully you dig this. I know it's not clean, but that's cool. Is when I ink, it's like thin to thick to thin. You know, you can play around there and do like these sharp shapes like this. I like to, you're going to see as we go, I like to usually work like this. But when we get into like the fatter inks, you know, it's a lot of like line and like paint dribbles, like this sort of stuff. And it tends to make it feel like it's a little more organic, like you're dropping ink down on stuff. You know, and you can kind of build things up, and that's sort of where we're going to end up going with it. Okay, so I just wanted to address that there, so you guys could kind of see that there. So to talk about your question about artist block with poses, how do you deal with it? That's a good question. I suppose what I do is I try not to. Whenever I do anything, even this, right? Like I'm not really too concerned myself anyway with the poses aspect of it. I'm more trying to find the composition. And I know that might sound weird or seem a little odd, especially like because you know we all like to draw, especially if you're doing like you said, right? Like something sick, like excuse me, like what was it, Daredevil versus Deadpool? Like that already sounds like it's gonna be an awesome picture, right? Like as long as it comes together and it doesn't miss its beats and stuff, it sounds like it could be really sick, right? But I noticed one of the big jumps in quality for me is when I started to think of drawing a little differently than I used to. I used to always do, I don't want to say what you're doing, but it would be like, who do I want to draw today? You know, like, oh yeah, let's just draw Magneto and Green Lantern. I have a picture. I remember I did that, and that didn't turn out very well. But I remember, you know, thinking like that, like who are two characters that normally don't go together, and all this sort of thing, and what would happen is I would think of them, and then I would try to think of them like using their powers or something. Like Magneto, what would he do? And I was sort of on the right track by going that way, but what I wasn't doing, again, with composition, or thinking about what's the story here. Like, it's cool to draw two characters fighting, and we've all seen them, and I've done them, and I still do them, where it's two characters fighting, and they're just, like, falling through the air, or they're just kind of, like, mid-attack doing something, but there's nothing there. There's no story. It's two guys fighting, or two heroes fighting, right? And what I challenge you guys to do, what I'd recommend, because this is how I get out of the artist block for myself anyway, is just start thinking about like, what's the story? What are they doing? Why are they here? What's going on? And this doesn't mean you have to draw like a whole backstory or anything, but just sort of think along those lines. Like, what are they doing? Because by asking those questions, what I ended up finding was that the poses, they come out of that story. Like, what part of the story are we watching now, right? Like, what part of what they're doing is are we in on? Like, what action? Like, so if it's Daredevil versus Deadpool, like, did Daredevil just fight a bunch of the Hand, you know? And Deadpool now wanted to, you know, I don't know, mix it up a little bit. Maybe he had like a contract with somebody, or maybe Daredevil stumbled into Deadpool. Who knows, right? Like, these are the stories you got to ask yourself. But let's just play one of these things out right now and see what kind of comes out of it. So let's just say it was Daredevil was fighting the Hand, and somebody contracted out Deadpool to be part of it, right? So maybe in the story, the shot that we're doing is it's Deadpool fighting um, Daredevil while a bunch of the Hand are all around them. Fallen Hand are all around them, right? So what does that look like? What part of the fight are they in? Are they in the part of the fight where it's like the third act of the fight, where Daredevil's suit's even more torn up now because he just lived that fight with the Hand? What's Daredevil look like? What's he doing? Which one's getting desperate? Which one's getting, that sort of stuff? And I find if you start asking those questions, you're asking a different part of your brain to solve a piece of problem that you would normally figure out just by drawing figures, right? So again, let me just draw something real simple up here. It's like what I would normally end up doing, right? Is I'm like, okay, so it's Daredevil and these guys, right? So somebody's probably in here, and maybe they got their hands up like this or something, and he's got that cool Daredevil thing going, and he's trying to hit Deadpool, and Deadpool, because he's Deadpool, he's getting hit over the head, but maybe went through his head. I don't know. And he's shooting, and he's missing Daredevil, and we got all these buildings back here, and that's cool. That's fine. That's it's a classic pinup, and then all we got to worry about is like the composition, right? So the composition could be like, all right, well, I want like a circular composition, so I'm gonna make his rope thingy kind of go around in circles, and it all points back. Okay, like that's cool. That's cover kind of stuff. But at the same time, you could just take that next step and say what we were just talking about, right? And we could have like all the Hand up in the front. We could maybe be on a roof. It's almost like Ninja Turtles-esque in a way, You got some close-ups of some stuff here. You can get some hands, some size coming down like this or something, and you got Daredevil up against the wall, like they're just struggling, and Deadpool's over here maybe, and you maybe got some more buildings in the background, the Hell's Kitchen, right? Again, just showing exactly what we had, but what we're doing is we're giving it more like, I guess, in like a comic panel in a way. And I've always found for myself that when I do this sort of thing, I get more reaction from people. I get more feedback in a positive way of just, again, story. And what this does is now all I have to worry about is like, okay, so what are they doing? What are they doing in this scene? And that helps me when I'm trying to look at what their bodies would do. Right, like maybe they just started and they're all like expressive and explosive. Maybe it's the end where they're just kind of like, collapsed in on each other. They're all exhausted, and you got a head here and a head here, but none of them want to fall over, and they're just kind of like slugging it out, right? Like these guys are just real close like this. Like you see what I'm saying here? And maybe Daredevil's just got like an elbow and it's hitting him in the back. But these are just the questions you ask. And then once you kind of have the thumbnail, none of this is right on artboard. Always do thumbnails of this stuff like that. Just look at this and then start filling up, again, little thumbnail sketches like what I'm doing right now. And just feel out the pose of what's going on. And that usually helps you out. Like what you're saying there, Fire Freak, just to reiterate there about you always feel like you rely too much on pose reference. That's going to go away in time with experience. As long as you continue to learn how to draw and you keep looking for new content, like reading comic books, watching movies and stuff, your visual language, your visual library in your own head will grow, for sure. I always have like there's certain like I think we could all think of Jim Lee and like a pose that he would do for like let's say Wolverine, or there's like a pose that I think there's certain poses for characters that just ring true. Like Wolverine's always looks good hunched over with his claws out, right? Or if he's nonchalantly smoking a cigar, like those are character things, right? Those are things that show the character, which is great. But when you're trying to come up with something new, it's a little bit more difficult. And that's why you always we got like and this is one thing I hope a lot of you guys here sort of hear what I say with this and actually try to apply it. You don't gotta take everything I say as fact, and I hope you don't. But this one thing I really do hope you guys do take as fact, which is, and I've always said it, is never stop being a student, and that means I don't care how successful we all get, and I want you all, everybody to be successful. The more artists we got doing stuff, the better for everybody. But never stop being a student. Never stop looking at new stuff. Never stop reading comics. Never stop watching movies. like sketching real people if you got time. I don't really like doing that myself, but it's better than just sitting on your phone sometimes flipping through Facebook. Grab like a stupid napkin with a pen and just draw people. What you're doing again is your visual library, and the visual library, that definition I got from listening to concept artists talk, specifically Fang Zhu. I've talked a lot about him, and that's what he would say. Like one of the best examples I ever heard was when he was talking about a castle. Right? It's like let's think of a castle. So when you try, like somebody, like a client comes across and says, "We want you to draw a castle for our video game, and the castle is going to be your main base." So draw some concept art of castles. So if you've never looked at a castle, you can look at Google and stuff, and that's fine. But if you've never really looked at a castle, and I told you to draw in front of me right now, you'd be surprised how many people would draw something similar to like this. And this was the example Fang Zhu gave, and I'm just repeating it because it's true. I found it to be true anyway. Right? Yeah, a little drawbridge here, and it almost looks like a bouncy castle in a way. It's not, but you probably have a bridge here, and there's probably a moat, right? Like, but that's not really like it's a castle, but it's not cool. There's nothing cool about that. If you're doing like a cartoony thing, maybe it works. Go ahead, right? But and the next thing I remember him saying is like, again, now this is where the story comes in. It's like, well, what if the castle, right, is like in a rock, like in a mountain, on a mountainside, and it's built inside of the rock, and now it's kind of like Minas Tirith in Lord of the Rings. We've got all these big structures up here, and then down here, and this is an example he gave as well. Down here is like where the peasants sort of live, right down here, and maybe we've got some like some walls to protect it and stuff. But now we can even put like a moat. Pardon my language, but screw a moat. We're gonna put like an ocean around this thing, right? Do you see instantly how these things are different? Like this is huge, right? And that's the importance of your visual library, building it up, looking at things, making things, and continually drawing, because that's what will build up in your mind. See you later, Tal. Thanks for showing up, bud. And this exact same thing works with figure drawing. We all have stock poses that we draw, and how do you get out of that routine? You got to draw. You got to draw. Got to draw. Got to draw. Got to look at things. You got to look at anime, manga, animation, anything you get your hands on. Foreshortening, learn new techniques of drawing. And that's why I say it's going to take a while, and always be a student, because students always want to learn, and learning means it's going to take time. We all know that. I think a lot of us don't want to spend all that time. Like if there was like a nice little shortcut, that'd be awesome. And I'm with you. But keep looking, and there's no magical advice other than draw every single day for as long as you can. It's the worst advice because it's the simplest and it can't be that easy, but that's the easiest solution, is literally draw every single day. Challenge yourself as much as you can and keep learning as much as you can. Another way to look at it too, and this one might be a little more scary, a little bit more aggressive, a little more intimidating, but it doesn't get much more real than this. Is while you're not, I think it was an Arnold Schwarzenegger video I watched before, and you guys can watch it too. You guys can search online. It's like a motivational quote from Arnold, I believe his book, and he was talking about, you got to be careful because when you're out, how did he say it? When you're out there partying and horsing around, somebody else out there is getting stronger and working. Like they're actually putting in the hours while you're out there having a good time, right? And you take that for what it means. It doesn't mean you have to give up everything that you find fun, but the truth in it is, yeah, he's right. Like you're out there having a good time, and everybody looks to get what they want out of life differently. Some people, I need social interaction. Some people I don't, right? And both come at a cost. So just be aware of that. That's all. That's the real talk, is you have to put in to get out. That feels like that should have been weird on that one. So anyway, I mean, I hope that answers your question here. It was a really long-winded way. We get there. Okay. I'm gonna try to keep motoring here. So here we're gonna get some bigger inks kind of coming down here to help show where all that's being pulled into. And I'm gonna get like a motion line coming in here too, just to sort of show that he's kicking there. This kind of looks a little bit like he just like exploded the dude's head. It's because the amount of shadows we got going in here. We'll see how it looks. Right now, it looks pretty violent. It's you had to be careful how he said that one. So I was listening to my brother actually send me a link. Do you guys listen to the Joe Rogan? I don't know what the hell he calls it. I hate when things are called like the so and so project or the so and so experience. I loathe that so much. But I believe the Joe Rogan podcast thing is called something like that. And I really don't listen to it too much. I don't know. There's some good stuff that I find on that show sometimes, but a lot of times it's just whatever. But anyway, so he actually had an interview with one of the people that wrote that the War of Art book that we were just talking about. And I really hope I'm not messing it up. I want to say it was him that what they were talking about was like a lot of people that if you want to change something in your life or you want to, I think it was in the Turning Pro book. I'm pretty sure it's in that one. The idea is if you don't like what you're doing and you want to change, not necessarily change it, but you want to be a professional, let's say comic book artist, you have to kill the person you are right now so that you can be resurrected as the person you want to be. And what that is addressing is like your habits, like all the things that are, what is it right now that you're doing that you shouldn't be doing if you want it to be the professional, right? Because we have an idea of what a professional is and what they do, and you don't need to know one to have an idea. Like a good example is, do you think a professional, and we'll just use comics because we're talking about that right now. Do you think a professional comic book artist plays video games? Right, that could go either way. I'm just using video games because it's the easiest thing to pick on. I love video games. Don't get me wrong. Right? So the answer is probably like no. Most comic book artists that I've heard of that have talked about it anyway, they gave up playing video games because it took up too much time. And that's not saying all comic book artists do this, right? There's some people that they still play video games. But that goes to the next question. How many comic book artists do you think play video games for more than 4 hours a day? 2 hours a day, right? How low are we going here? How low are we going to go? And the reason you even start thinking about those things, or if I hope you do, I ask that you do anyway, just to see how far you can push it. But the reason why that sort of becomes interesting, at least to me, is because you need to start realizing, right? Look, okay, well, I've heard anyway that how long does it take you to make a comic page, a professional level comic page? A professional is going to mean different to a lot of people, but I think we can all kind of assume the same outcome of what that looks like. So if that's how long it takes, well, I don't know about you guys and gals, but when I draw a comic book page, it takes one hell of a long time, especially like if I'm doing a lot of rendering and shadows and like a lot of thought. And by the end of it, it's like, oh my god. And this is probably an age thing, but it's like the idea of even playing a video game is like, oh my god, I don't want it. I can't. I'll sit there and then my butt will get hurt because I've been sitting down all day, or just pick a bunch of things. I'd rather watch a movie or something because I don't have to think or do anything. Just stupid stuff, right? This is just me talking. But it's just asking those questions and seeing how much you change. If you were to say you were a professional, what would you do different? Maybe now you don't have time because a professional would spend an hour a night getting better, researching, going on news forums just to see what the news is in your related field. Right? Do you do that right now? How many of us read comic book articles, not necessarily reviewing the best books out right now, but are just talking about the industry? How educated in comics do you think a professional is? Right? Do you see what I'm doing here? I'm just making you theoretically ask these different questions that I'm assuming most of us don't ask. I'm not saying all. I'm just, again, an assumption that most people probably don't ask. And that's really what, it's just a change in attitude. And I forget how I'm rambling back in there. Where's his head? His head is being kicked right now. We're going to add like a little explosion, like an impact hit. Hopefully it looks like once I get that line in there that his head's being kicked forward. It's an axe kick. That's what I'm hoping anyway. And if it doesn't sell it, you guys let me know. And then I can kind of do my best to sort of fix it. I'm hoping it reads though. Yeah, Karen. Yeah, I know, right? I know. I know. James is saying, great question, great thing there, right? It takes James 20 hours to do a comic book page. 20 hours. I'm not saying 20 hours like, oh my God, like why does it take you so long? I'm saying 20 hours because it's 20 hours. Everybody makes their comic pages differently. Some days you'd have a, a comic page that's all talking heads. The next day it's like what I always like to say. It's the Avengers fighting an invasion of Kree in double page spread in New York, Times Square. It's littered with people, explosions everywhere, buildings falling over. Like what the heck? Like that's gonna take a long friggin' time, right? And apparently, right, what we're told is the going rate anyway is a page a day for a comic book artist. So that's a double page spread is 2 days. So you've got 2 days, 48 hours. We'll subtract 16 of that. No, we'll just keep it easy. We'll subtract. What are you gonna do? 18 hours, we'll say, between those 2 days to draw it to sleep. So that gives you 30 hours now to draw that double page spread. Now we'll subtract some meals, some showering maybe from time to time. When are we taking a break during that time? Do you see what's happening, right? So these sort of things start getting into, I'm hoping anyway, that, so what does a professional do? Do they have time? They don't have time to be sick? I've got two pages a day to do. Does this start to sound scary to some of you people? Like, does some of us start getting like anxiety when we hear this? It's just the reality of it. There's nothing to be. That's what a professional does. They know that the job. That's the job, and it shouldn't be a surprise, really, right? Especially with the internet now, it's like you've got information everywhere you look. Um, so I'm not trying to belittle it at all. It's a lot of work, a lot of work. But just know that that's the job, and that's okay. So keep asking yourself those questions. How would you tackle it? And maybe some of you haven't asked these questions to yourself. Maybe some of you haven't even thought of it. I don't know. Every day I come home from work and I make portfolio pages, or I'm doing my own project to show people and stuff, but what does that mean? What are you trying to get out of that? Let's say every day you're working on a Marvel portfolio. You've been doing it for the last 6 months. You've been working on a Marvel portfolio so that when you can go to a comic book convention, you could show it to them, and maybe this time they'll say, this is awesome. You finally made it. And this it's kind of bringing me down a little bit. Making it sound a little too like, ugh. Relax here, buddy. It's just comics. But what I'm trying to do again is, if I can be that person that sort of kicks some of you in the butt to sort of look at what we're doing a little, or look at what you're doing a little different. Ask some better questions. Maybe you haven't asked yourself. Just makes things so much easier for yourself down the road. You're starting to see it different. And again, just to hammer it in, that professional versus amateur thing one more time, is literally today, like right now, when we're done talking, or you can do it right now, shut me off, and I encourage you to do that. Just stop listening to this. Become a professional. Right now, you can do it. Some people say that you're a professional once you get your first paid work. Somebody pays you to do something. How many of you here could just go sell a picture? I guarantee it. You could sell it for 10 cents, a quarter, a buck. So what's that mean? What's the next step? So that's not a professional then? If that's the definition, is the definition I need to sell something for $100? I need it to be my full-time job. Those are the good questions to ask, right? Because then that tells you where you need to go. If it is, for me, a professional artist, comic book artist, that's my day job. I get paid to do comic book pages. If that's what it is, then how easy is it? How easy is it? You now know what you need to do to get there. And now it's only the professional, now that the professional knows what it is to get there, you just start taking those steps. Every day, taking steps. And it might seem like it's impossible. No, it can't be that easy. If it's that easy, everybody would do it. I think you're probably right. But the question is, that I would challenge you with is, how many people actually do ask that question? How many people actually take it that seriously? I know one thing I used to do, and I'm so glad and I'm grateful that I don't do it anymore, which was, and unfortunately, I know people do this all the time, and I bring it up because I think it's uh, one of the saddest things that artists do, because the craft takes so long, and you're by yourself a lot to get better, right? That you'll spend a whole bunch of time doing your portfolios, doing all the hard work, all that good stuff, and then you'll bring your work to like a show. You'll show an editor. Some of you will hear back from an editor saying, "Nice, keep sending me stuff," or you'll hear back saying like, "It's not quite there, but I like you could have some stuff. Just please keep sending me stuff." Or you just hear back from an editor at all, and it's sort of like, "You're not for us right now," and then you get upset about it. And it's okay to get upset about things. But I'm talking about the upset about like, I've put in X amount of years, I deserve this. And that's where and this is a personal thing, where I sort of like pull back a bit, like, because nobody owes anybody anything. Nothing. Nobody owes you jack. I don't care if you spend your whole life doing this and you don't get a job. It sucks. It sucks big time. But that shouldn't be a surprise. Like if that's a surprise to you, I mean, back up, just reassess what it is that you're trying to get at is something. Nothing's guaranteed. Just keep doing what you're doing. That's why you hear a lot of artists, they'll say stuff, right? Like you can't just be in this for the money. You can't just be in this for so and so. There's other ways to get there. I'm really. I apologize for all the ranting today, you guys. I'm just I'm so excited because I'm just like voicing what I've been reading and all the stuff I'm saying. I've been saying to myself over the last 2 weeks or whatever. I've been reading these books, and I love them. They just challenged me to think in a different way, and I'm hoping some of you guys get a kick out of it. Anyway, um, so Fire Freak, what was that saying? Wow, my commissions aren't professional since I don't do it full time. See? Exactly. It's up to you. It's your definition of a full time. Actually, here, let's do this. So everybody in the chat right now, go ahead and let me know. Let me know two things if you want to put it in there. Let me know what it is you want to do. Like if you want a career in art, post that. Post what that career is. Comic book artist, animator, right? Post what it is that you want and what you think it takes to mean, or what would you have to do in order to be considered a professional in your mind, right? So what is it you want to be, and what is it that it would take for you to be a professional? I just want to see what some of you guys are saying, what you guys think. And Fire Freak saying, John, while you're reading books, someone else is getting better with practice. It's true. It's true. I recommend audiobooks. You can hit. We'll do some Trailer Park Boys here. Two birds stoned at once. The other thing I do. No, I'm totally with you. I get it. I know you're joking around too. I try to read before going to bed, like for like 10 to 30 minutes or so. I used to hate reading. Oh my god. Okay, so let's get this all going here. I need to change these to black. Cool. Okay, so we're gonna save this up here. Okay, so we're going to flatten image, change it to gray, and we're going to export it as a Photoshop document. We're not going to do this one today. This one I do at the end of the week when I add the color to the background. I'll show you what these actually. You guys might get a kick out of it. What these look like when they're totally done. I'll bring up the fifth one there that we did too. Should work. Yeah. So it's just like a textured background, and then the characters themselves are just white. Again, this is what the client asked for. It gives it more of like a gritty pop sort of thing like that. So Fire is saying would love to self-publish printed comic books. So what would it take, Fire Freak, for you, like in your mind? What would it be? What would it take for you to be a professional in that? Silver saying paying my bills with my art. Karen, can you still put a silhouette of his head under the foot? Yeah, actually, it's probably a good idea. Let's try that right now. Let's give it a shot, see what it looks like. I just want to make sure I'm seeing what you guys are saying there. Fire saying, always said though I don't need the money. I have a job. Would love to do Marvel comic even for free just to say I did it. So I get okay. So this is, I guess this is actually even a better question because some of the answers I'm seeing here, and there's no right or wrong answer at all. Absolutely, I'm not criticizing anybody's anything, right? Because James brought it up, and I'm thinking, this actually goes into the next part of the question, I suppose, where he's saying, I'm happy being a professional hobbyist, not looking to get paid because I want to enjoy doing it. So, how many of you in the chat, and also that are watching this video, please leave in the comments, how many of you are just drawing because you like it and you actually don't want to be a professional? It would just be nice to get paid. The only reason I say that is because when I hear that, where people say, it'd be nice to pay my bills with my art. It would be nice to get a job at Marvel. It would be nice to do all these things. Usually, and again, there's nothing wrong. I'm just, opinions. When I hear that, it's sort of like it's one of two things. One, it's fear, the fear of I'm very comfortable in my current situation, my life. It would just be nice if I could add that to it, right? So you're stuck in being comfortable. The idea of I want to be a full-time comic book artist in this case, let's say again with the Marvel example, is I want to do Marvel comics as a job. That seems very risky. So it would just be cool if I could. And because of that, then you're actually not going to push as hard as somebody else that wants that to be their reality, right? So it's just a little different. That's all. Again, just make asking questions, starting conversations, and then the second one. What was my second point there? There was the 2 points. The one of if you're a hobbyist, and yeah, I guess the second one is you're just a hobbyist and you just enjoy the learning of art. It relaxes you. You love everything else of your life. It's sort of like the weekend painter. They just like to paint on the weekends. It relaxes them. And if that's the case, then what I'm talking about most likely doesn't apply, or those sort of things people wouldn't really talk about, right? They don't care that much. They just want to have some fun. Silver is saying, so this is a good extreme example too. I was forced to overcome my fear of jumping into art because I lost my job. Now it is all I have, and I have to make it work. So Silver, I guess I could ask you, how's it going? I'm sure it's. Is it still scary for you? Are you in a better situation now than you were? Are you getting clients and stuff? Are you chasing it? Are you struggling to put food on your table? Is it how bad is it right now? Or is it awesome? I hope you say awesome. I don't like when I hear people struggling and stuff, but I mean, I guess that's sort of like the reality that comes with what we're talking about here, right? And again, to be fair, and I'm not trying to push buttons. I'm just trying to get people to ask stuff if you're interested in actually being a professional something, right? Like, let's be honest, there's certain people that when I say a book called Turning Pro, some people are like, oh yeah, let me read all about that, and then there's some people that are like, I don't care, right? And not one's better than the other. It's just this sort of talk, I guess, is more interesting to that specific people, like the people like that. I guess I'm talking to myself when I'm talking about them. Not that the same rules can't be applied to people that are casually just having fun. Like I just like John Captain America standing around with a shield sometimes. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. So we're saying most of the bills get paid, but I need to beef up commission work. I do cards for Upper Deck, all the Comic Cons I can. Congratulations, man! I do like that. I have fun, but there's room to improve. Of course, of course. And I wish you all the best, and I'm glad you're still sticking through it, and you took that gamble. A lot of people they lose their job and everything goes to shit, and you probably already went through a lot of that. So. Um, it's funny. A lot of those books too. They were talking about like were tragedy. I'll consider this tragedy just for the sake of talking about it. Where it's like that pushes people to do something, right? Like losing weight and getting a healthy body happens when somebody has a heart attack, or you've got cancer. So what they do is they go and they quit their job, and then they start like a animal shelter, or they open up a bakery or something like that just because they've always wanted to, and I'm gonna die anyway, so who cares? May as well try to do the best, do everything I wish I could have done. And then they end up getting remission or something, and they still live through it, and it's like, do we really have to go that far? Is it that extreme? Is that extreme for us to want to try even harder to get this going on? So I'm taking your guys' advice here. I guess I'm going to try to add like a second line here. Just to show the two things of motion going on here. I'm hoping this helps resolve it anyway. If it doesn't, then we'll just have to figure out how to get it to work. Silver is here to learn. Awesome. James, always a student. Karen, I enjoy listening to all this real talk and motivation. It's helpful. I pay bills with art, but need to focus on it more. Awesome. No, thank you guys for sharing. Yeah, I mean, trust me, I get comments all the time. I get comments all the time from people saying like, I really wish you would stop talking and draw more, or upload more videos that are just like, like our old stuff. Show me how to draw better stuff. Show me how to draw a guy doing this or doing that, and that's fun too. But like I guess we started the show off with me talking about sort of like the shift in attitude here. This I get a kick out of. This I actually enjoy doing this sort of stuff a lot more than that. It's a mix of the two, but I'm just glad that some people get something out of it too. I'm just trying to help um, as best I can. Okay, so maybe this helps a little bit. Not sure. Maybe I'll get rid of that line because it sort of looks like the guy might have headbanged into the kick. I don't know. This one's going to have to go to the client to see what he thinks between the two. Pillow said he can't wait to get to the point to pay bills with his art. Yes, great suggestion there, Karen. Okay, so Pillow, I'm going to use you as a guinea pig here then, just before we wrap the show out. So you said I can't wait to get to the point to pay bills with my art. And I know there's a lag between things here, so hopefully it won't be too brutal. Right now, it pays for dinner once a month. So what would it take for you to be able to pay all your bills with art? What would you need to do today? What would you need to be? What would you need to become? What steps would you need to take to get them? Most of the time, people don't answer with "I don't know." People have an idea. And Silver saying, "Best wishes to you all. Make art, not excuses." The real talk. We should start calling this Real Talk Wednesdays. All right, I'm going to save this again one more time. and then we're going to export as Photoshop again so we can get our color on there. So sorry, you guys. I was hoping to be able to get some Jessup King stuff done today with you guys, but I finished my work for the day, so I'm going to be able to do a little bit of Jessup King here before we go to bed. So Pillow's saying, work, 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 and push myself. So think about this. How cool is this? And this really speaks to like I'm glad you answered there, Pillow. Thank you. But I think this speaks to like a lot of people, pretty much everyone, right? Is so what Pillowhead saying is he wishes that his art could pay for his bills. So that question's still a little open. We could still go a few stages into it. Like, okay, well, what kind of art would you like to do? What kind of art do you get paid to do? What kind of art do you think you'd like to do, right? And we could really drill down what it is you like to do, and also what kind of art could you do that pays well, right? So a good example that I'll just throw out there is Pillowhead. I forget exactly how it started, but I had asked if anybody knew how to model anything in like Google SketchUp. And he reached out, and I commissioned him to do the Jessup spaceship, right? And that was just organic. That wasn't like he didn't come to me asking any of that stuff, right? So I'm just using that as an example. I'm not sure if Pillowhead, you like to do modeling, like that's something you'd love to do, but that could be a way that you could make money doing stuff, is modeling things for people digitally for digital artists. Because I can tell you right now, the amount of people that message me asking about videos I've done in the past about like importing figures, 3D figures from Manga Studo in to do their art, and I have no idea. I did a quick video showing it, but I have no idea about that stuff, right? And just to bring it back again around to that other book, that 80-20 rule, this could be a great way to do it. 80% of the art money that you bring in could be client work, and 20% is personal work, right? That personal work is like long-term growth. It'll eventually, hopefully, grow into something that flips it, where 80% of your income comes from personal projects and 20% is letting people know about it, right? So if that's the case, you could do that. But the best part is what I'm trying to get at is what you said was what I think a lot of people say is they just wish all you need to do to make art your full-time job is work more, harder, and smarter. That's it. Like, that's it. And when you think about it, like, how easy is it? It's scary to move forward. It can't be that easy, right? Or else everybody would do it. But it's that fear that holds you back. So I'm just gonna wrap up the show. Thank you everybody that participated in this. Honestly, you guys are awesome. You guys are really awesome. I really do appreciate it. I just want to say one more time, if anything we talked about today pissed you off, I'm sorry. But if someone was like, there might be something in there, the 2 books to check out that I've recently read that are amazing, talking directly about this, is The War of Art, which is a play on the art of war. Right, so just remember, that one's the easiest way to remember it. That one and the 80-20 principle. Those 2, I think, will help make some decisions for you, or make it a little bit easier. If I were to throw a 3rd book in there, I mean, there's a lot of books here, is Turning Pro, and that one we just sort of talked about, and that's just like a shift in mindset and stuff like that. But thank you, everybody that showed up. This show here is every Wednesday from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I want to say now, too, the first Wednesday of every month is a critique show. I know it's like, 3 episodes away for that or not, but I want to bring it up so it's not necessarily a surprise. So if you guys had some art that you wanted to participate by sharing into the chat, get that ready. That'll be in a few Wednesdays from now. I'll usually make some posts. And please follow me on a whole bunch of social media stuff. You guys, if you're interested into that, head on over to jonathanrector.com. There's a whole bunch of links on the screen you can see. In the description of the video, there'll be a bunch of links. You can follow me there as well. And the very last thing I'll say is I have a Snapchat. I've had that for a little while now. And what I'm going to be doing is for my Patreons, I'm going to be, you can be a dollar patron or whatever, and you'll still get these updates. I'm going to be releasing these small little, they're fun. They're really actually a lot of fun to do, and really not much effort. It's just, explaining in a condensed way. It's really fun. I'm enjoying it. But these grouped videos on Patreon, I'll be sharing them first with like a little extra content. that I'll add afterwards, and then I'll release it about a month later on YouTube. So you guys will still get that. We'll start seeing some of them come up. I've put, I think, 2 videos on YouTube right now. They were just sort of like tests to sort of get this going. But if you are interested in all that stuff, head on over to Patreon. I got a whole bunch of other things you can check out there for free as well. If you're $1, I mean, sorry. You can check over there, and there's other reward tiers in there. And if anybody of my Patreons are watching right now, thank you guys. Thank you. I feel like I sort of need a script at the end of this thing. It's really starting to become really like cut and dry. But anyway, thank you guys so much. I'll talk to you guys next Wednesday. And like usual, keep reading comics, keep making comics, and we'll talk to you then. Bye bye.